There is a photograph that used to circulate constantly in Dubai Marina real estate listings. You have seen it. Taken from a drone at golden hour, the water reflects the towers like a mirror, every building lit from within. Yachts anchored along the promenade, a pedestrian walkway full of people who look like they are living the most curated version of their lives. That photograph sold apartments from Moscow to Mumbai. It sold the idea that waterfront living in the Middle East was not just possible, it was accessible. That for a fraction of what a comparable view would cost in London or Singapore or Sydney, you could wake up every morning inside that image. That photograph was real. And what is happening in Dubai Marina right now is also real. And the gap between those two realities is what this video is going to trace with precision. Now, it's because the story of Dubai Marina is not simply a story about a neighborhood in decline. It is a story about what happens when the product being sold is a feeling, and the feeling disappears. If you have been following this channel for a while, you already know how we do this. No cheerleading, no catastrophism. Just the data, the sources, and the honest analysis. If that is what you are here for, subscribe right now, because we publish this kind of deep dive every week and you do not want to miss what is coming next on this series. Now let us talk about Dubai Marina. The development was, by any objective measure, an engineering achievement of the first order. Launched in 2003 by Emaar Properties, Dubai Marina was designed as the world's largest man-made marina and a 3.5-kilometer waterfront district built from scratch on what was previously desert coastline. It would eventually house over 200 residential towers, retail corridors, a continuous promenade along the water, and some of the most recognizable architectural silhouettes in the Gulf. At its peak, it was home to approximately 80,000 residents, making it one of the densest residential districts in the entire emirate. It attracted buyers from Russia, Eastern Europe, South Asia, and the United Kingdom. It attracted young professionals who wanted the waterfront lifestyle at a price point that still, compared to global benchmarks, felt like a deal. And for a period, roughly from 2012 to 2019, it delivered on that promise well enough to sustain the belief. The original value proposition was layered, and each layer reinforced the others. The physical infrastructure was genuinely impressive. The Marina Walk, the metro connection at Jumeirah Lake's towers, the proximity to the beach, the concentration of restaurants and gyms and retail. For an expatriate arriving in Dubai for the first time, Dubai Marina was the answer to the question of where to live if you wanted to feel immediately integrated into urban life without requiring a car at every moment of the day. And that accessibility premium was real. Rents in the marina consistently commanded a premium over comparable square footage elsewhere in the city. Investors buying off-plan in the mid-2000s saw appreciation. The dream was not invented. It was for a time grounded in evidence. But even before the visible cracks appeared, the structural pressures were building. And this is the part that the listing agents and the lifestyle content creators were never going to tell you. By 2019, Knight Frank, the global real estate consultancy, had already identified Dubai's broader residential market as suffering from a severe oversupply problem, with new unit completions consistently outpacing absorption rates. Dubai Marina was not immune to this dynamic. It was, in many ways, the most exposed to it because it had attracted the highest concentration of investor-owned, non-owner-occupied units in the city. Vacancy data from Property Monitor indicated that in some towers within the marina, investor-owned units sitting empty represented upwards of 30 to 40% of total stock. These were not homes. They were financial instruments shaped like apartments. And like all financial instruments, they were sensitive to the confidence of the people holding them. Now let us talk about the numbers, because the numbers are where this story stops being abstract. According to data from the Dubai Land Department and aggregated by Property Monitor, average residential rents in Dubai Marina peaked in 2022 during the post-pandemic surge, when the city saw an extraordinary inflow of remote workers, crypto wealth holders, and individuals relocating from Russia and Ukraine following the beginning of the conflict in Eastern Europe. At that peak, a one-bedroom apartment in a mid-tier marina tower was renting for between 90,000 and 110,000 dirhams annually, which is approximately $24,500 to $30,000 per year, or roughly $2,000 to $2,500 per month. A two-bedroom in a premium waterfront-facing building could easily reach 160,000 to 180,000 dirhams, or about 43,500 to $49,000 annually. By the first quarter of 2025, according to data from CBRE's Dubai Residential Market Report, those same unit categories had softened by 12 to 18% in real terms across the Marina submarket, against a backdrop of continued new supply entering the market from neighboring districts including Dubai Harbor and Omar Beachfront, which were directly competing for the same buyer and tenant profile with newer product and, in many cases, better views. The Marina was no longer the only premium waterfront address. It had competitors, and it was aging. The Cavendish Maxwell Residential Market Report for the fourth quarter of 2024 identified Dubai Marina as one of several established districts experiencing what analysts described as a flight to quality, meaning tenants and buyers were moving away from older stock within the marina toward newer developments nearby, rather than leaving the broader area. The implication was precise and uncomfortable for marina landlords holding 15-year-old units in towers with aging elevators and no recent refurbishment. Price maintenance in this environment required constant reinvestment, and many investor owners were not investing. They were extracting. The product was deteriorating faster than the market had priced. Here's the part that does not appear in the promotional materials. According to the Cooper Fitch Salary Guide for the Gulf Cooperation Council region, published in 2024, median professional salaries in Dubai across the majority of mid-level expatriate roles had increased by an average of 4 to 7% over the previous 2 years, while residential costs in premium districts including Dubai Marina had increased by 25 to 40% over the same period. That is not a cost of living adjustment. That is a structural affordability collapse in slow motion. The people who were the natural tenants of Dubai Marina, the mid-senior professionals, the couples without children, the consultants and finance workers and marketing directors, were being mathematically squeezed out of the district they had once defined. Some moved to Jumeirah Village Circle or Dubai Silicon Oasis, where rents remained significantly lower. So some left Dubai entirely. A survey published by Internations in 2024, which polled over 12,000 expatriates living in the emirate, found that housing affordability had moved from the seventh most commonly cited concern in 2021 to the second most commonly cited concern in 2024, behind only career prospects. Dubai Marina registered among the highest dissatisfaction scores for value for money among districts where long-term expatriates lived. This is where the story of Dubai Marina connects to something larger than a single neighborhood. The marina was never just real estate, it was a thesis statement. The thesis was that Dubai had solved the problem of desirable urban living in the Gulf, that you could build density, walkability, waterfront access, and cosmopolitan community from scratch in a desert city in under 2 decades. And for a while, that thesis held. But a thesis built on confidence is only as durable as the confidence that sustains it. The early months of 2026 did not create the vulnerabilities in Dubai Marina. They made those vulnerabilities impossible to continue ignoring. The regional security situation that escalated in January and February of 2026, following increased aerial activity and alerts over the Gulf, had an immediate and measurable impact on the category of visitors and potential buyers who had been sustaining demand at the upper end of the marina market. Flight data from aviation analytics firm OAG showed a 19% year-over-year decline in seat capacity into Dubai International Airport in February 2026 compared to February 2025. And hotel occupancy data from Smith Travel Research for the same month showed a decline of 14 points against the prior year average. These were not marginal fluctuations. These were numbers that arrived on top of a market already under pressure. The impact on the marina was felt at the sales level almost immediately. According to Dubai Land Department transaction data reviewed by Property Monitor for February 2026, ready unit sales volumes in the marina submarket declined by 26% compared to January. Secondary market listings increased by 18% in the same period, as investor owners who had been holding stock began moving it to market at discounts of 8 to 12% below their previously listed ask prices. These are not the behaviors of a market experiencing temporary volatility. These are the behaviors of sellers recalibrating their expectations under conditions of genuine uncertainty. Victoria Reeves, a British expatriate and property investor who owned two apartments in Dubai Marina and had been using them as short-term rentals through vacation platforms, described to the Financial Times in February 2026 a situation where her bookings had dropped to near zero within 10 days of the first security alerts. A property manager who oversaw a portfolio of 34 short-term rental units across Dubai Marina, and JBR described to Arabian Business the same month a cancellation rate of over 60% in a 2-week window, and a rebooking rate that he described as essentially non-existent for the near-term calendar. The conflict did not cause these cancellations. Had the underlying brittleness of the short-term rental model in the marina created the conditions in which any disruption could produce a collapse. When you build a revenue model on the assumption of constant tourist inflow, you are not building a resilient investment. You are building a highly leveraged bet on stability. And stability in the Gulf has never been guaranteed. The stratification of who is hurting matters because it is not uniform. At the top of the economic pyramid, the ultra-high net worth buyers who purchased penthouses and full-floor units in the marina's premium towers are largely insulated. These are buyers who treat real estate as one allocation within a diversified global portfolio. A 15% paper depreciation in a single asset class does not change their life. Several ultra-high net worth buyers who have been active in the marina luxury segment have responded to recent conditions not by selling, but by expanding their positions opportunistically, acquiring secondary units from distressed investor sellers at discounts. For this cohort, volatility is not a threat. It is a buying window. For the mid-level professional expatriate, the calculus is entirely different. Take someone earning 25,000 to 35,000 dirhams per month, which is approximately $6,800 to $9,500, a solid professional income in most global contexts. At 2024 and 2025 rental levels, a one-bedroom apartment in the marina absorbs between 25 and 35% of gross income before tax. In a city with no income tax, that matters less than it would elsewhere. But the absence of permanent residency pathways means that every 2 or 3 years this person faces a visa renewal, a potential employer transition, and a decision about whether the lifestyle premium of Dubai Marina continues to justify the financial exposure. An increasing number of them, according to Internations data, are answering that question with a relocation, not a renewal. And then there is the third layer, the workers that no one in the lifestyle content ecosystem acknowledges when they film their sunrise runs along the marina walk. The delivery driver navigating the district's narrow internal roads at 2 in the morning. The maintenance technician who keeps 200 towers functional on a salary that has not kept pace with anything. How the cleaners and security guards and parking attendants who commute from Deira or Sharjah because the marina is not a place where they could afford to live in any scenario. When the short-term rental market collapsed in February 2026, it was not the investor owners who felt it first. It was the hospitality workers and the cleaning crews and the front desk staff at the serviced apartment buildings who suddenly had shifts cut or contracts suspended. They are the invisible labor that makes the waterfront dream run, and they are the first to absorb the cost when the dream falters. The structural vulnerabilities of Dubai Marina go back further than any single geopolitical event. The first is the unit composition problem. The overwhelming majority of marina towers were built as investment vehicles, not as communities. The ratio of owner-occupied to investor-owned units has remained inverted throughout the district's existence, meaning that the social fabric of a genuine neighborhood, the people who stay, who know their neighbors, who participate in the life of the street over years, has never developed at scale. The marina looks like a neighborhood. It does not function as one, and destinations that function as stages rather than communities are inherently more fragile when the audience stops showing up. The second structural vulnerability is the aging infrastructure problem. The first wave of marina towers completed between 2005 and 2010 is now approaching 15 to 20 years old. Elevator systems, plumbing infrastructure, facade maintenance, and common area upgrades require capital expenditure that many small investor owners are not prepared to fund through service charges. The Dubai Real Estate Regulatory Authority, the agency responsible for overseeing strata management, has repeatedly issued guidance on service charge compliance, but enforcement at the unit level has been inconsistent. The result is a visible bifurcation between well-maintained towers with active owners associations and deteriorating towers where maintenance has been deferred for years. That bifurcation is becoming visible in rental pricing, where the spread between the best and worst product in the marina has widened to levels that the district has not seen before. The third structural vulnerability is the competition problem. When Dubai Marina launched, it had no serious competitors within the emirate for the waterfront urban premium positioning. That is no longer true. Emaar Beachfront, Dubai Harbor, Port de la Mer in Jumeirah, and the ongoing development of Dubai Creek Harbor all offer newer product, often at comparable or lower price points, with better amenity packages and more modern layouts. The marina is no longer competing with itself. It is competing with a city that has continued building around it while it aged in place. Hamad Al-Mansouri, a prominent Dubai-based real estate attorney who has advised on dozens of marina transactions over the past decade, wrote in a column for Gulf Business in January 2025 that the marina's challenge was not a crisis of perception but a crisis of product relevance, and that the district required a coordinated public-private investment in infrastructure upgrading if it was to maintain its competitive position against newer waterfront developments. He was not an external critic. He was someone whose livelihood depended on the marina remaining valuable. That context makes his assessment more credible, not less. Where does Dubai Marina go from here? The honest answer is that two recoveries are needed, and they operate on very different timelines. The operational recovery, the return of tourism, the stabilization of short-term bookings, the resumption of normal sales volumes can begin relatively quickly if the regional security environment stabilizes. Dubai has recovered from security-related tourism disruptions before. The city's logistical infrastructure, its airport capacity, its hotel inventory, its event calendar remains substantial. That recovery is possible within a timeline of months. The structural recovery is a different project entirely. Closing the gap between the marina's aging product and the expectations of the buyers and tenants who are now choosing Emaar Beachfront instead requires either significant landlord investment in refurbishment, which many small investors will not undertake, or a repricing of the district toward a lower price point that reflects its age and competitive position. Neither outcome is painless for existing asset holders. Both are, however, more honest than the current situation, in which landlords are attempting to maintain 2022 peak-era pricing on 2010-era product in a market that has demonstrably moved. The dream of Dubai Marina was real. The engineering achievement was real. The decade of genuine lifestyle premium was real. What is also real is that cities age, markets correct, and the gap between the image in a listing photograph and the condition of a building at year 18 is not a problem that branding can solve. It requires capital, it requires governance, and it requires an honest reckoning with the fact that building a waterfront community and building a waterfront investment product are not the same project, and Dubai Marina tried to be both at once for too long. If you live in the marina right now, or if you are considering buying there, the question is not whether the district survives. It will. The question is what it survives as, and whether the version it becomes still matches the calculation you were making when you first considered it. Tell me in the comments, did the marina deliver on what it promised you? Or did you figure out what was happening before the market did? And if this is the kind of analysis that cuts through the promotional noise on what is actually happening in the cities and real estate markets that matter, you know what to do.